What's up YouTube, Jeff back again, and today I'm really excited because I have the Galaxy Watch 4 versus Apple Watch Series 7 for you guys. I've had the Apple Watch Series 7 a little over 48 hours and I want to make a comparison in this video. Before I get started, I want to let you guys know that Samsung is having a nice sale on accessories like micro SD cards, other types of memory. If you guys need anything, I'll drop the link below. If you click on it, it helps out the channel. You don't have to buy anything, even just checking it out will help it out. I really appreciate that. Also, if you guys want to check out either of these two watches, I will drop links below to both of these so you can purchase at the end of my comparison. Let's get right into it. So first of all, one thing that's really important about these two watches is obviously OS compatibility really is going to determine which watch you buy. So in some sense, this comparison is purely for academic purposes because at the end of the day, if you have an Android phone, the Galaxy Watch 4 is going to be a better device for you because it doesn't work with iOS. And if you have an iPhone, the Apple Watch Series 7 is going to be a better device for you because it doesn't work with Android. So there's the OS compatibility issue, just to get that out of the way. And, right at the beginning here, these are not things you can use cross compatibility in terms of Android and iOS. So it's really determined uniquely by whatever your phone is. Most people are not going to make a decision on their smartwatch based on, they're not going to make a decision on the smartwatch first and then buy a phone that's based on the watch. It's usually the other way around. So with that out of the way, let's talk about price up front because that's also a big considering factor. The Apple Watch Series 7 is quite a bit more expensive. These are the same, well, technically they're slightly different. I'm using them pretty much the same right now. This is the Wi-Fi version of the Galaxy Watch 4, which I believe is $279. This is actually the aluminum LTE plus Wi-Fi version of the Apple Watch Series 7, which retails for I think $529, somewhere around there. But for $100 less, you can get the Wi-Fi only model. So the actual price difference between these two, if you buy the Wi-Fi only, is around $150. Now Apple did have a $100 rebate on the Apple Watch LTE versions. You could get like a $100 MasterCard as a rebate. So that's why I bought the LTE version. I'll cash that in and it'll end up not being too much different. But there's a big price difference. Obviously the Apple Watch costs quite a bit more. Let's talk about the design next, because the design is obviously another issue. Also, I turned these watches both on kind of the maximum display timeout that I could, which I think is 70 seconds for the Apple Watch and a minute for the Galaxy Watch 4. So it's going to time out a little bit throughout. I'll just have to tap it to turn it back on. Obviously, they're quite a bit different in terms of design. If you actually look at the sort of thickness profile from the side, they're not that much different. If you sort of look at the back crown that the Apple Watch has on it where the sensors are, it sticks out a little more than the Galaxy Watch 4, so it's a little different there. I have the large band on it for the Apple Watch, and you can actually see if we lay them side by side. There's also the stock Samsung band that comes with it. The stock Apple band, slightly longer here than the one that Samsung includes with the large one. This is the sport band for the Apple Watch Series 7. Obviously, they have, huge design differences in terms of you got a classic sort of watch aesthetic that's rounded off versus this kind of rounded circle, like a squircle design over here. Also, you've got the physical digital crown versus sort of this virtual kind of rotating bezel where you can kind of interact with it virtually to swipe through, things like that. So it is pretty nice to interact with both watches. Both are very easy to interact with. But the design preference is really an aesthetic thing, right? I mean, there's two buttons on the Samsung watch instead of having the one button versus the digital crown. Just a completely different overall look and aesthetic. Now, when it comes to your sort of screen and actual resolution, all those sorts of things, both displays are very clear, but the Apple Watch does have clearly the larger of the two displays. As you can see, you can fit quite a bit more text and things like that on the Apple Watch display versus the Galaxy Watch 4. So at the end of the day, that in and of itself is another considering factor. If you're comparing them, one-to-one, if, it's which one you prefer. I mean, I like having more screen real estate personally because it still doesn't look overly big. When it actually comes to sort of the appearance on my wrist, you guys can kind of get a look. This is the Galaxy Watch 4. Kind of bend it over so you guys can kind of see how it looks there. That's what it looks like on wrist. And then you can take a look here, kind of just bend the watch over as well. You can see what the Apple Watch Series 7 looks like on wrist. So neither of them really look outrageously large. In this case, I have the larger version of the Apple Watch Series 7. It's the 45mm version. And then I also have the larger version of the Galaxy Watch 4. But there really is no difference between these two sizes in terms of, is it going to look outrageously gawky on your wrist? Not really. Build quality is the next thing I'll talk about here. The build quality on both watches is quite good. the Galaxy Watch 4 does have a military rating for durability, even on the aluminum model, which the Galaxy Watch 4 only comes in aluminum. You need stainless steel. You got to go to the Galaxy Watch 4 Classic, which I actually don't have. But this thing is very durable, and I actually will tell you, the Apple Watch is not quite as durable. I don't know if you guys can see it on here. I actually dropped my Apple Watch Series 7 as soon as I got it out of the box. This is one of the few times I've ever dropped my tech. There's a little sliver of silver there on this blue, whatever they're calling this. I forgot the exact color of the blue, but it's a little sliver of silver where I dropped it. I dropped it on my wood floors upstairs, and so it did end up getting scratched, maybe just the coating there. But I haven't had any issues. I've definitely banged around my Samsung Galaxy Watch 4. I've had this for, you know, a while now, like a month and a half since the Galaxy Fold launched, because that's when this launched as well. No scratches or really anything I can see around here. So in terms of durability of the actual chassis, I would say that the Galaxy Watch 4 has a kind of a big advantage there. Also, in terms of the actual screen durability, that one I've never really scratched the smartwatch screen, but theoretically, based on the specs, they both should be good. The Apple Watch should be slightly better based on the specs, but I can't really comment because I've had an Apple Watch before and I've never really scratched it, even though I bang it around. My Galaxy Watch 4 really hasn't had any either. And like I said, I bang this into stuff all the time, like doors, and I really have no scratches on either one. This one also didn't get scratched on the display when I dropped it, even though I dropped it kind of face down. So that's kind of interesting right there. In terms of the feel on the wrist, I don't know. In terms of the stock bands, I think I like the Apple stock band better. Of course, there's lots of band options. I'll talk about that more in a second because that's also important. Band compatibility, you know, where you can find all the bands and which bands are compatible. That's important. But in terms of feel on the wrist, I actually like the Apple band that I bought with it a little bit better, the Sport Band. That's mainly because the Samsung one, it sits so far off the wrist. I talked about this in my review. There's kind of this gap. Even if you pull it flush, you guys can see the gap there between my wrist and the actual chassis of the watch. That I'm not a huge fan of, but obviously you can change the band, so not a huge deal. I'm just commenting on kind of the stock band at the end of the day. I kind of like both of them in terms of the feel on the wrist. They're both quite light, being aluminum, so I don't really have a problem with either one in that regard. In terms of band compatibility, Apple has a ton of first-party bands. Samsung trying to go that direction as well, coming out with more band options this year. I feel like a lot of them were actually sold out at launch, so maybe they didn't do that great of a job. But you can basically change the Samsung band with any standard. Actually, you can kind of see it right on here. If you just look, 20 millimeter, any 20 millimeter band that you can find on Amazon. And there's a lot of good ones. I've actually gotten some from Barton, this company that makes like cloth bands. I just put the stock Samsung band back on this for the video, for the comparison. But you can get any 20 millimeter band, it'll fit this watch. On the other hand, of course, there are lots of other third parties aside from Apple that make Apple Watch bands, but they do have the proprietary connector. You got to press this little button in here, it slides off. It's not just compatible with any old 20 millimeter, 22 millimeter watch band, so you actually do have to go out and buy these ones that are specially made for the Apple Watch. So in that sense, it kind of is nice because you can find bands for cheaper and probably buy more of them instead of having to buy the Apple version. But Apple does make very comfortable bands and there's a lot of options. So that really depends on if you're willing to pay the extra money to buy the first party Apple Watch bands and also to pay for that proprietary connector when you do out and get it from a third party. So that's pretty much it in terms of hardware. I'm still going to talk a lot about software, sensors and things like that. But in terms of like the build, the bands, the feel on the wrist, both of them are really up to preference in that case. I kind of prefer the Apple Watch in terms of the extra screen real estate that I get. I also feel like it's a little bit brighter in outdoor conditions, although both are very visible. But it really comes down to, are you going to use, you know, a rounded watch? Do you like that look? Or do you like the Apple Watch look because it says, hey, I have an Apple Watch? Some people like that. Let's talk about the software next. That's really the big distinguishing factor for me, and I'll kind of talk about why a little bit here. The software, of course, you've got watchOS 8, you've got Wear OS 3, which Samsung and Google designed in partnership. Both of them are quite good. In fact, Samsung and Google kind of took some cues from the Apple Watch, in my opinion, if you actually take a look at kind of how the app drawer looks now on the Galaxy Watch 4. It kind of looks like the all-app view that you see on your Apple Watch. You know, Apple Watch has had that since the beginning. So they did that, and that's fine. I mean, everybody borrows some things here and there. In terms of actual software, I think Wear OS 3 is a huge leap forward, but I still think there are some places where Wear OS 8 comes up a little bit better at the end of the day, and I'll tell you the things that I actually like a little more about Wear OS 8. The first thing is there's just a little bit wider app availability at the end of the day. Certainly having the Play Store has made the app availability much better on the Galaxy Watch 4 than it was on past Galaxy Watches that were just Tizen models. But there are still apps that I use that are missing watch compatible apps. One of the big ones is Pocket Cast. You guys can actually see it right there. This is Pocket Cast. Pocket Cast does not have a Wear OS app. I've tried to find it in the Play Store. You can't load one up. There's other ones as well. See if I can find a couple more. My banking app, Fidelity, right there. They do not have a Wear OS app. These are just small conveniences that I can get with the apps on Watch OS and don't really see them on Wear OS yet. I think Messenger, Facebook Messenger, is another one that actually does. And then also, of course, Dark Sky, which is my favorite weather app. They've moved specifically to iOS, so of course it doesn't have an Android app anymore. But there are a lot of them, like Spotify, right? You've got Spotify on both of them. You've got Outlook right there. You can see the Outlook app on both of them. You've got Google Keep on both of them. So, you know, a lot of these are going to be on every single one of them. I accidentally pressed the compass there. But there are some that are still missing on Wear OS 3 versus Watch OS 8. So that's something to consider in terms of software. The next thing is, when it comes to overall smoothness at the end of the day, I just find Wear OS 8 to still be a little bit smoother. The animations are a little bit nicer. There's never any kind of weird jankiness with the software. If you've used Wear OS, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you'll have a little stutter here and there. The overall performance is much better on the Galaxy Watch 4 than usual, but sometimes you'll still have a little stutter switching between screens, or if you swipe away a notification or something like that. But it's overall a pretty smooth experience, but it's still a little more polished on Watch OS 8. I never have any sort of hiccups where something doesn't, clear properly, or it doesn't close out the screen that I'm on quick enough. That's always going to work very nicely in Watch OS 8. So that's just a personal observation when it comes to the smoothness at the end of the day. The organization of the apps is very similar in terms of settings, your quick toggles and things like that. A lot of those things are similar. They're just in different places, right? Swipe up versus swipe down. You've got all the same types of controls, theater mode. The Apple Watch has this cool thing where you can actually get the water out of your speaker. That's always been something that I've actually liked quite a bit. But you can see that you've got that same type of control right there on the Galaxy Watch 4. So all of these kind of features in terms of settings, you can control your music. You've got complications on the watch faces. I'm getting some emails there. I've got complications coming in on the watch faces, all that kind of stuff. Like I've got Dark Sky there. I've got my weather app over here. Very nice overall in terms of the complications you can add. And also in terms of integrating different types of apps. You can now do that with both of them. And that's a nice thing to have on both of pieces of software. So the main thing for me is the added smoothness, the extra app availability that you get on Watch OS 8. But Samsung's definitely got a lot of nice things in here. And we're going to talk about it. If you're a Samsung fan, don't worry. We're going to talk about some of the special features that Samsung's added, especially when it comes to health features and things like that. So actually, I will talk about one of the special features that Samsung added. Apple has some cool features too that you can kind of talk to individual people with your Apple Watch, do the Apple Tap Back and all that stuff. Samsung added this nice walkie-talkie app, which I've been using quite a bit with friends and also with my wife. I had actually reset this watch because I had tried pairing it with a different phone. But the walkie-talkie app is very fun to play around with if you want to communicate with just one person. It only works with the Galaxy Watch 4, Galaxy Watch 4 Classic. That's one special feature. I mean, it's an app you have to download, but it's something that I think is very nice that Samsung added. Like I said, Apple's had the ability to communicate with individual people via, things like I mentioned, like Tap Back for quite a while. But it's nice to see that added also to the Galaxy Watch 4. In terms of health features though, and let's talk about health and then I'll talk about fitness tracking. The Galaxy Watch 4 actually has quite a bit more than the Apple Watch. Both of them have, like your standard rings, like your steps, your floors, your calories, all that kind of stuff. And they actually look pretty similar, actually. I actually like the interface a little bit more on the Galaxy Watch 4. It's just a little more creative and it's a little more easy to see. I actually really like the fact that you've got the actual information there, so the actual numbers. I don't actually have to tap on it there. That keeps me motivated a little bit more, just in my personal opinion. But in terms of extra features, Samsung added some things. Of course, your fitness tracking, I'll come back to that in a second. Body composition is something Samsung added, like body mass index, that you don't get on the Apple Watch, on watchOS 8. Of course, sleep tracking, you can do that on both of them basically, but you actually can detect snoring with the sleep tracking on the Galaxy Watch as well, and blood pressure as well. Let's see if I can scroll through and find that. Both of them have ECG, stress meter. Now this isn't also another feature, but this one doesn't work that great. I've tried measuring my stress on the Galaxy Watch 4 quite a few times. The blood pressure, the BMI work fine, but the stress meter, that one, I'm not sure quite, how much I really like that feature, or how much it really works nicely on the Galaxy Watch 4. But there's a whole bunch of other tiles, of course, you can add. I was trying to see if I could find the other health features. Blood oxygen, of course, is on both of them at the end of the day. You can get your health summary. You got Samsung Health, so you can kind of integrate all of them together. Lots of stuff that's in both of them. But the body mass index piece, that's a pretty big deal that obviously you don't get on the Apple Watch now. And it's something you do get on the Samsung Watch. So some health features added, specifically since Samsung has touted kind of, health features, and that's something that Apple's touted over time as well. It's kind of a big deal to get those features added in here at the end of the day. So then the next thing that I want to talk about before we move on is the actual fitness tracking. So fitness tracking, of course, a big deal on both of them, and that goes along with the health features. I mentioned if you swipe over here, you can get into your fitness tracking. You've got all your different apps there. And if you go in over here, you can get your workouts in, right? You've got walking, running, cycling, more. One thing I will say is that while the Samsung Watch offers just the same, type of workouts basically as the Apple Watch has been a lot more accurate when I actually track my walks or my runs in specific instances. And I want to tell you about that because, it's all about my personal experience, and everyone's gonna have a slightly different one. When I go out taking a walk with my wife and my kid, and you got your hands on the stroller, something like that, at the end of the day, the Galaxy Watch actually won't track your steps. It doesn't think you're walking, whereas the Apple Watch does continue to do that. I guess that's possibly two different ways that they're actually tracking the steps, but that actually is a big deal because when I go out for those walks, we sometimes spend an hour. I want to get credit for all those steps, obviously, at the end of the day. And I think that's actually a pretty important thing, to some people. There's lots of people who go out walking like that and probably doing that very thing. That's kind of a big deal and something that I think is useful. So I think the Apple Watch is more accurate at the end of the day when it comes to tracking my workouts anyway, which is basically walking and running. In terms of heart rate and other things like that, I think both of them do a pretty good job. I can't really comment on cycling or swimming or anything because I don't really do that all that much, so that's not something I can really comment on at the end of the day. But I do think the Apple Watch is a little more accurate, even though they both have the same robust type of workouts at the end of the day. That's something to consider as well. Okay, now I want to talk about a couple of other things. One of those, which you guys probably noticed when I was actually talking, was that this Gmail notification popped up on my Apple Watch, but it did not pop up on my Galaxy Watch. And this is actually a huge problem that I've noticed that a lot of people have commented on over on Reddit and other places. The Galaxy Watch seems to have a problem relaying Gmail messages and some other apps like WhatsApp, big important apps. My Apple Watch never has that problem with notification reliability, and that's something that's a big deal, right? If you're using your Apple Watch every day and you're a professional, you want to get your emails. Gmail is very important, right? This is just some spam email. Plus, I'm recording this on a Sunday, so I don't care about my messages on that particular day. But on the weekdays, getting an email and getting that notification before I have to go do something else like teach a class, that could be a potentially big deal for me at the end of the day. And so not getting that notification could potentially be a problem if I don't get it on my Galaxy Watch 4. I always get it on here. You guys probably also noticed my mom just sent me a message. The notification popped up on Google Chat. It did not actually vibrate over here on the Galaxy Watch 4. It came in silently. So this kind of notification reliability issue seems to be something I've noticed from a lot of people around the internet. And the Apple Watch actually does that a lot better, even with Google Apps, which is very bad considering that Wear OS 3 was created in conjunction with Google. Final two things I want to talk about. First, haptic feedback in terms of the vibration. The Apple Watch is just hands down better at haptic feedback than the Galaxy Watch 4. The vibration on the Galaxy Watch 4, in my opinion, is quite abrasive. It's not something that's going to be a deal breaker for most people. I know haptic feedback is kind of a small thing, but to me, it's a small thing that would push me in one way or the other if I actually had a choice. You know, if I had both phones and I had to decide which watch to use, which I do, the Apple Watch does have better haptic feedback. I do care about that. And then the last thing, which is battery life, and the Galaxy Watch 4 absolutely crushes the Apple Watch Series 7 on battery life. Battery life is much better on the Galaxy Watch 4. You guys could probably see, actually, while I've been talking, this one, I don't know how much it dropped on percentage. Someone have to tell me in the comments. 64, I think it started like 60-something. This one actually, though, one thing I will say, so I might look like a liar here, but the Apple Watch, I just charged it. It's at 100, but it stays at 100 for a long time, and then it'll drop down to like 93 or 92%, which is not cool. That's actually a big con to me. Accuracy of the battery life percentage being reflected is actually a big deal. This will actually drop down, like, you know, probably to 92% eventually, right from 100 all at once, which I don't like. I can get 2 days of real use, tons of notifications and such from the Galaxy Watch 4, only about a day and a half maybe, which means I really need to charge it every night with the Apple Watch. That's a fairly big difference, so you don't have to worry about charging it every single night. So battery life definitely goes to the Galaxy Watch 4 at the end of the day. But the Apple Watch Series 7 does charge faster because it has the new fast charging. So there's that. And of course, it does charge quite quickly. I've tested it. And if you charge both of them 0 to 100, you know, you're looking at, they have different battery sizes, but you're looking at about 20 minutes faster with the Apple Watch Series 7. So that might matter to some people. Anyway, at the end of the day, I like both of these watches. I posted on Twitter saying that I thought that the Galaxy Watch Series 4 was actually way inferior to the Apple Watch Series 7. Actually, after making the video, I'm not so sure that's actually true. I think the Galaxy Watch 4 has better durability, better battery life, and at the end of the day is cheaper, has better health features overall, right? But again, on the other hand, Series 7, I like the display better, more area, brighter, better haptics, smoother software experience, more reliable. I think it kind of fits the mold of these two companies. Samsung's usually the more innovative of the two. Apple's the more reliable in terms of, you know, everyday driver, but they don't have any really crazy new features coming into the watch. Anyway, this is a super long video for me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I put quite a bit of effort into this one, talking about everything I think I can in terms of these two watches. If you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. I'll drop the link below. If you guys want to check out the Samsung sale, it really helps out my channel. I'll drop that out below as well. If you guys want to buy either watch, I'll also have those links. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.